The smell of vanilla and cinnamon always takes me back to those early mornings at Sullivan's Diner, watching Mom work her magic at the griddle. I'm Sophia Sullivan, and this is the story of how my brothers tried to erase our mother's legacy and how a weathered recipe book changed everything. A restaurant is more than just food, Mom used to say, whisking batter in the pre-dawn light. It's memories made around a table, stories told over coffee, comfort served on a plate. She'd demonstrate each recipe with graceful precision, adding pinches of spices without measuring, creating dishes that made our little diner the heart of downtown Mill Creek for 40 years. My brothers, Michael and James, never understood that. They saw the worn vinyl booths, the decades-old coffee machines, the cracked tile floor that Mom refused to replace because it had character. They didn't see what I saw. The history in every scratch, the love in every recipe, the magic that made ordinary ingredients extraordinary. I practically grew up in that kitchen, watching Mom transform simple ingredients into dishes that people drove hours to taste. Her blueberry pancakes weren't just breakfast. They were clouds of perfection that made food critics write poetry. Her chicken pot pie had a crust so flaky it made pastry chefs weep. And her mysterious sunshine sauce had customers begging for the recipe for decades. Family secrets stay in the family, she'd always say with a wink, adding another unmarked ingredient to the sauce that made everything it touched taste like heaven. While my brothers escaped to college and corporate jobs, I stayed, learning every recipe, every technique, every secret that made our diner special. Mom never wrote anything down, or so I thought. "It's all up here," she'd say, tapping her temple. "When you cook with love, measurements are just suggestions." The day Mom passed away, 6 months ago, the diner lost its song. The morning rush felt hollow without her voice calling out orders. The kitchen seemed too big without her presence. But I kept cooking, kept serving, kept her spirit alive through every dish that left the kitchen. Michael and James showed up for the funeral in their expensive suits, made appropriate sad faces, then disappeared back to their lives, leaving me to handle everything. The only time they called was to complain about the diner's outdated image and limited profit potential. "It's a money pit, Sophia," Michael would say during his rare visits. Mom was too sentimental to modernize, but times change. "The property alone is worth more than the business," James would add, eyes fixed on his phone. "We could sell to developers and all make a fortune." But I held firm. The diner wasn't just a business, it was Mom's heart and soul, her legacy to the community she loved. Besides, I knew something they didn't. It happened 3 weeks ago while I was cleaning out Mom's old office. Behind a loose panel in her ancient desk, I found it. A leather-bound book, its pages yellow with age, filled with handwritten recipes. Not just Mom's famous dishes, but secrets passed down through generations of our family. The first page bore an inscription, "To my daughter Sophia, who understands that cooking is love made visible. These recipes are our family's heart. Use them wisely. Love, Mom." As I turned the pages, my hands trembling, I discovered this wasn't just a recipe book. It was a culinary treasure trove. The mysterious sunshine sauce, a revolutionary blend of ingredients that could transform any dish. The pancake recipe, a technique that had been lost to time. Each page contained not just ingredients and methods, but the kind of culinary innovations that modern chefs spent careers trying to discover. I was still processing this discovery when James and Michael burst into the diner yesterday morning, matching smirks on their faces. "Guess what, little sister?" James announced, straightening his designer tie. We found a solution to our problem. Michael nodded, looking around the diner with barely concealed disdain. We sold the place. Developers are turning it into luxury condos. The world seemed to tilt. You what? It's a great deal, James continued, pulling out documents. The new owners take possession next week. We just need your signature since you're technically a co-owner. You can't do this, I whispered. This place is Mom's legacy. Mom's gone, Sophia, Michael said, his voice patronizing. And this place is worthless, except for the land it sits on. Time to grow up and accept change. They didn't notice my hand slip into my apron pocket, touching the recipe book I'd been studying every night. They didn't know about the calls I'd been getting from famous chefs who'd heard whispers about Mom's secret recipes. They had no idea that just yesterday, a celebrity restaurateur had offered 7 figures just for the sunshine sauce recipe alone. The papers are just a formality, James was saying, holding out a pen. The deal's already done. I looked around the diner, at the counter where Mom taught me to roll pie crust, at the booth where she helped me with homework, at the kitchen where she created culinary magic for 40 years. Then I looked at my brothers, these strangers in expensive suits who thought they could erase all of that with a signature. Actually, I said quietly, we need to talk about Mom's real legacy, and why this diner is worth more than you could possibly imagine. Michael laughed. What? The outdated equipment? The ancient recipes? I smiled, thinking of the book in my pocket, of the offers already coming in, of the look that would soon replace those smirks on my brothers' faces. Let me make you boys some coffee, I said, heading to the kitchen, and then I'll show you exactly what Mom left behind. The morning sun streamed through the diner's windows, catching the steam from the coffee maker, creating a halo effect around the worn counter. Mom always said the best revenge is served like the best meals, with perfect timing and just the right ingredients. I was about to show my brothers just how right she was. I set 3 cups of coffee on the corner booth table, watching steam rise as my brothers impatiently checked their phones. The morning sun painted shadows through the vintage Sullivan's Diner window sign, creating patterns on the worn tabletop, the same table where Mom used to test her new recipes. Can we hurry this up? Michael drummed his fingers on his leather portfolio. Some of us have real jobs to get to. Funny you should mention real jobs, I said, sliding into the booth. Tell me, how much did these developers offer for the diner? James smirked. $2 million. Far more than this outdated greasy spoon is worth. I pulled out my phone, opening an email I'd received yesterday. Interesting, because Marco Romano just offered me $3 million for a single recipe. The silence that followed was delicious. Marco Romano, the celebrity chef with 17 restaurants and his own cooking empire, was a name even my corporately obsessed brothers recognized. You're lying, Michael finally managed. I slid my phone across the table. They huddled over it, reading the email from Romano's business manager. Their faces paled as they reached the dollar figure. This is a joke, James stammered. Romano wouldn't. Oh, that's just for the sunshine sauce recipe, I continued casually, sipping my coffee. He hasn't even heard about the pancakes yet, or the pie crust technique that Gordon Walsh called revolutionary when he dined here last week. Gordon Walsh, the 3-star Michelin chef? Michael's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. I nodded. Turns out Mom's outdated recipes are quite valuable to the right people. I reached into my apron and pulled out the leather-bound book. Especially when they're part of a collection that spans 3 generations of culinary innovation. Their eyes locked onto the book like sharks scenting blood. I could practically see dollar signs reflecting in their designer glasses. "If this is true," James said slowly, "then as co-owners of the diner, those recipes belong to all of us." "Actually," I countered, "Mom left the book specifically to me. Check the inscription." They read Mom's handwritten note, their expressions darkening. "This doesn't change anything," Michael snapped. "The sale agreement is already unsigned." I cut in. "And incomplete without my approval. But here's what you don't understand. The recipes are just the beginning." I pulled out my laptop, opening the files I'd prepared. Over the past 3 weeks, since finding Mom's book, I've been documenting everything. Testing recipes, recording techniques, upgrading equipment. And people have noticed. I showed them the reservations list, packed solid for the next 6 months. The write-ups in food blogs. The messages from celebrity chefs and restaurant critics begging for tables. Last Tuesday, Anthony Chin from Taste Masters came in disguised to try Mom's pot pie. He called it, and I quote, "a masterclass in comfort food elevation that makes modern molecular gastronomy look like amateur hour." "That's impossible," James protested. "This is just a diner." "No," I corrected him. "This is a culinary legacy. Mom wasn't just cooking, she was innovating. That sunshine sauce. It's a completely unique process that creates flavors nobody has been able to replicate. The pancake recipe? It involves a technique that professional chefs have been trying to figure out for decades." I opened another email. The Food Network wants to feature us in their Hidden Gems series. The Culinary Institute of America is interested in documenting Mom's techniques for their archives, and 3 different restaurant groups have approached me about franchise opportunities. Michael leaned forward, his business instincts finally engaging. "How much are we talking about?" "The recipes alone? Industry experts value them at 8 figures. The diner, with its established brand and growing reputation, add another 0. But the developers," James began, "can find another location." I finished. "This spot, this diner, with its history and its secrets, it's worth more than any luxury condo project." I pulled out a folder of my own. "So here's my offer. I'll buy out your shares. Fair market value, based on current professional assessments of the business's potential. You walk away with more than your developer deal would have paid, and I keep Mom's legacy alive. Or," Michael's eyes narrowed, "or I go public with everything. The secret recipes, the celebrity chef endorsements, the franchise potential. Watch how fast your $2 million deal evaporates when developers realize what they're trying to tear down." James reached for the recipe book. I pulled it back smoothly. "The book stays with me. Mom's orders." "This is blackmail," he sputtered. "No," I corrected. "This is business. Isn't that what you've been telling me to learn about?" My phone buzzed. Another message from Marco Romano's team. They were raising their offer for the sunshine sauce recipe to $4 million. "Take the night to think about it," I said, standing up. "I have a diner to run. Oh, and you might want to stay for breakfast. The food critics from the Times are coming in to try Mom's blueberry pancakes. Apparently, they've heard some interesting rumors about a secret ingredient that changes the entire structure of the batter." I headed to the kitchen, leaving them staring at their phones, frantically Googling recent reviews of Sullivan's Diner. Through the service window, I could see them huddled together, whispering urgently, their developer's contract forgotten on the table. Opening Mom's recipe book to the pancake page, I smiled at her handwritten notes in the margins. The secret isn't in the ingredients, Sophia. It's in knowing how precious things are and protecting them. The morning crew was arriving, tying on their aprons. The prep list for today included 3 of Mom's signature dishes that food critics had been raving about. Soon, the diner would be full of regular customers and culinary professionals, all drawn by the magic that my brothers had dismissed as worthless. I fired up the griddle, the same one Mom had cooked on for decades. As the surface heated, I swore I could hear her laugh, proud and strong, echoing through her kitchen. The battle wasn't over. I knew my brothers well enough to expect resistance, schemes, possibly even legal threats. But I had something they didn't. Not just Mom's recipes, but her wisdom, her passion, and her understanding of what made food truly special. The recipe book sat safely in my apron pocket as I began mixing the pancake batter, adding each ingredient with the precision Mom had taught me. Outside, the line was already forming. Locals who'd loved Mom's cooking for years mixed with food critics and celebrity chefs, all waiting to taste what my brothers had tried to destroy. "Time to cook," I whispered, hearing Mom's voice in my head, "and show them what priceless really means." The next morning, Sullivan's Diner hummed with an energy I hadn't felt since Mom passed. Every table was full. Regular customers mixed with food critics, celebrity chefs trying to decode our recipes, and even a few nervous-looking real estate developers. I was plating Mom's signature pancakes when my brother stormed in, wielding folders of legal documents and matching scowls. "This ends now," Michael announced, slapping a stack of papers on the counter. We had our lawyers look everything over. As majority shareholders. Actually, a smooth voice interrupted, "You might want to review the original ownership documents again." Marco Romano himself stood from his booth, cutting an impressive figure in his chef's whites. The celebrity chef approached the counter, dozens of phones recording his every move. "You see," he continued, "your mother was quite clever with her business structure. Sophia isn't just a co-owner. She's the controlling partner of the restaurant's intellectual property, including," he smiled, "all recipes and techniques developed on these premises." James fumbled through his papers. "That's impossible." We checked. "Page 6, subsection C," I said quietly, sliding a highlighted document across the counter. "Mom added it during the last revision 5 years ago. You both signed off on it without reading, too busy with your real jobs to pay attention to diner paperwork." Michael's face turned an interesting shade of red. "This is ridiculous. It's just a bunch of old recipes." "Old recipes?" Gordon Walsh stood up from another booth, his 3 Michelin stars practically gleaming. "Young man, your mother invented a sauce stabilization technique that revolutionizes flavor profiles. That single innovation is worth millions in the current market. And the pancake methodology?" Anthony Chin emerged from the kitchen, where he'd been observing our breakfast prep. "It completely reinvents the relationship between protein structures and heat application. I've offered 7 figures just for that process alone." My brothers stared as more culinary celebrities revealed themselves among the diners. The Food Network crew, filming discreetly in the corner, captured everything. "But the development deal," James weakly held up the contract, "has been withdrawn," a sharp voice called from the door. Catherine Martinez, the development company's CEO, strode in. "We don't demolish culinary landmarks, gentlemen, especially ones featured in tomorrow's New York Times dining section." She turned to me, smiling. "However, we would be interested in discussing a renovation project, preserving the diner's character while upgrading the facilities to handle your growing customer base. My brothers slumped into counter seats, their expensive suits wrinkled, their legal ammunition useless. I poured them coffee, Mom's special blend, of course. You know what's ironic? I said, sliding Mom's pancakes in front of them. If you'd ever actually eaten here regularly, you'd have known what we had. Mom wasn't just cooking, she was innovating, experimenting, perfecting. Every dish held secrets that modern chefs are desperate to learn. Speaking of secrets, Marco Romano interjected, "Shall we discuss my offer for a Sullivan's Diner specialty restaurant in Las Vegas? Featuring your mother's recipes, prepared under your supervision, of course. And the cookbook deal," added a publishing executive from her corner table. 7 figures, just for the first edition. The cooking show potential is enormous. The Food Network producer chimed in. Authentic family recipes. Real culinary innovation, a great redemption story. My brothers stared at their pancakes, perfect golden brown, the secret technique making them simultaneously fluffy and crisp in a way no other chef had mastered. "We could work something out," Michael said quietly. "As a family." I thought about Mom's words in the recipe book. Success, like the perfect sauce, requires balance. Too much of any ingredient ruins the whole dish. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, refilling their coffee cups. "You're going to sign over your shares of the diner to me. Fair market value, as originally offered. In exchange, you'll each receive a small percentage of the licensing profits from Mom's recipes. Not because you deserve it, but because Mom would have wanted the family to share in her legacy. And if we refuse," James attempted one last show of defiance. Marco Romano laughed. "Then your sister takes these recipes and opens a new restaurant without you. How much do you think this property will be worth when Sullivan's Diner relocates 2 blocks away?" They signed the papers within the hour. 1 year later, Sullivan's Diner celebrated its reopening. The renovation had been perfect, maintaining the classic feel while modernizing the kitchen and expanding the seating. The original booths were reupholstered, the vintage sign restored, the character preserved, but enhanced. We now serve over 1,000 customers daily. The waiting list for dinner reservations is months long. 3 nights a week, I teach cooking classes, sharing some of Mom's simpler recipes with aspiring chefs. The more revolutionary techniques are being documented by culinary institutes, ensuring Mom's innovations will educate future generations. The Las Vegas restaurant opens next month. The cookbook is already a bestseller. The Food Network series, Sullivan's Secret Recipes, debuts in the fall. Michael and James. They come around occasionally, usually when the quarterly profit shares are distributed. They even eat here sometimes, finally learning to appreciate what Mom created. Last week, I caught Michael trying to reverse engineer the sunshine sauce recipe. I just smiled. Some secrets aren't meant to be cracked. Mom's recipe book sits in a place of honor behind the counter, in a custom display case. Next to it stands her old whisk, the one she used to make the pancake batter every morning for 40 years. Sometimes, when I'm in the kitchen before dawn, mixing those same ingredients, I swear I can hear her voice. "The secret ingredient isn't in the pantry, Sophia. It's in knowing what you have, fighting for what matters, and remembering that the best recipes aren't just about food. They're about love." Just yesterday, a young girl sat at the counter, watching me cook with wide eyes, just like I used to watch Mom. Her mother told me they'd driven 6 hours just to eat here. "How do you make everything taste so special?" the girl asked. I thought about the recipe book, about Mom's legacy, about the magic that happens when passion meets innovation. about how my brothers almost destroyed something priceless because they couldn't see its true value. The real secret, I told her, sliding a perfect pancake onto her plate, is understanding that some things are worth more than money. Some things are worth fighting for. The diner filled with the breakfast rush, regulars, tourists, food critics, all drawn by recipes that had almost been lost. The griddle sizzled, coffee brewed, and the spirit of Sullivan's Diner lived on, stronger than ever. Mom would have loved it. After all, she always said the best revenge is served, not just with perfect timing and the right ingredients, but with a side of success that keeps on growing. As for that sunshine sauce recipe, it's still a secret. Some things, like Mom knew, are priceless, not because of what they're worth, but because of what they mean. And every morning, as I unlock the diner's doors and fire up the griddle, I smile, knowing that the real value of Sullivan's was never in its property or even its recipes. It was in the legacy of a woman who understood that true innovation doesn't always wear a fancy suit or come with a big price tag. Sometimes it wears an apron, works a humble griddle, and changes the world one perfectly cooked pancake at a time.